Coming to you live from Revive, it's with all due respect. And now, your host, CJ Walters!
Yeah. All right, everybody. Periscope people in the audience, thank you guys for coming out tonight. You know my main man, Sharp, and the guy in the back pushing the buttons doing that thing we call the wizard. How was your week been, Sharp?
Hey, every day's a bonus. That's my motto. Every day's a bonus.
You're like a, glass half full type guy.
Oh yeah, definitely. Glass is definitely half full. But I always say it depends on if you're thirsty or not. If you're thirsty, it's half empty. If you're good, it's half full.
I always say it depends on what's in the glass.
That's true too.
You got a great liquid beverage in that glass.
Like a Mountain Dew?
That's gone. It's nothing in the glass.
Yeah.
All right, you know how we do it with all due respect. Let's get started tonight, Wizard, with our top 5.
Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3.
All right, top 5 headlines tonight. First one, KFC debuts that they are now doing home delivery services.
My mind is not slightly, but way blown here.
That way you're sitting on the couch, you're like, I want a bucket of chicken.
Yeah, like half extra crispy, half original recipe.
Bring that to my house.
Bring that to my house.
They're piloting it right now.
As a matter of fact,
major
give me
cities.
some mashed potatoes and some mac and cheese and a biscuit with honey.
I think their sides are better than their actually chicken.
KFC is delish.
Love it. So they're debuting this right now, piloting it in 3 major cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Houston. There's like a $5 to $7 charge on top of it, but I'm not sure if that's counting the tip that you give the guy or what, but hey, he's having to drive out to it, it's awesome.
KFC, piloted in Dry Ridge.
There you go. Convenience, we love convenience. All right, moving on. Noah's Ark attraction here in Williamstown, Kentucky.
Yeah, it's big time. We're big time.
They just debuted.
We're now on the grid.
The opening day for the Ark has been put in stone for July 7th, 2016.
That's not that far away.
Not that far away, especially if you drive by there right now and look at it and you say,
yeah, it's like,
ain't no way that boat's going to float.
no.
I don't know.
July 7th.
July 7th, that's pretty close. I mean,
that's real close.
You're talking about you don't know what's going to happen this winter.
I wish we had some pictures of where they're at now just to see it. I mean, it's all the way down to the parking lot and the lights. Like there's
a lot of stuff to do.
Looks like there's a lot of stuff.
I mean, they've done a lot of work. You should see that place when they first started. It was crazy what they've done. But what are your thoughts about it, though? I mean, you living here in Grant County.
I don't really know. I mean, it seems like it's going to be a huge thing, not just for the county, but for surrounding areas too. I mean, it's a big thing.
Yeah, it could be. Who knows? All right, moving on. This is my favorite one for the night, top 5. A pastafarian, which I could be saying that wrong. She can now wear a strainer on her head in a licensed photo. So, what did you say? And there's Wizard's got the picture there of this lady, and this is the actual lady. She's got a spaghetti strainer on her head. And you're like, what? What does that mean? Okay. Well, this woman belongs to the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. And she went to court to let them know because it is a religious belief that she needs to wear this thing on her head during her photo. You can't make this stuff up. So there actually is, and I researched it. There's a Flying Spaghetti Monster church. Like it's like the real deal. Like they worship this twister-like spaghetti and meatballs thing.
With all due respect, that lady's cuckoo.
So they got all these slogans, and it's like one slogan talks about how large their let's just say meatballs are. Their meatballs are larger than your meatballs.
And they worship this.
Here's the other it's all over places. slogan is, he touched me, the spaghetti monster touched me with his noodly appendage.
There's no way you made that up.
Signs and shirts and everything.
It's funny how dumb you are.
I mean, so I had to research this, and I'm like, there's no way. So this is what they believe. They believe that we have evolved from pirates. Like,
what's that got to do with spaghetti?
I have no idea. It says I couldn't find anything.
We evolved
Why
from
the spaghetti
pirates?
monster? I'm like, why the spaghetti twister? Couldn't find anything. This is what I found. They believe that pirates were the original Pastafarians, and that they were peaceful explorers. It was only due to the Christian misinformation that they have an image of outcast criminals today. And here's the major beliefs. That no one knows what the afterlife really holds, but we are told that FSM, which is Flying Spaghetti Monster, heaven, has a beer volcano and a stripper factory.
I don't even know what to say to that. There's no way somebody seriously believes that.
I don't think
no
so.
way
But
somebody really believes that.
You can get ordained for $25. Just pay your $25, they send you the certificate. Ordination. Done.
No way.
Hand to God.
There's no way somebody actually believes that.
I don't know. Moving on.
No way.
So deer season here. Deer season here has opened up.
Get rid of that lady on the picture. I don't even look at her
He is
anymore.
angry.
I'm angry.
Deer season's opened up this week. And so the people took to social media this week, just hammering deer hunters. You know how it goes.
Of course.
I mean, talking about things like, if they're defenseless animals, like it'd be okay if that deer is packing, it's okay to shoot it.
Right.
Other than that, no.
I was getting my hair cut the other day. We were talking about deer hunting, and somebody was like, well, you don't want to hear my opinion about deer hunting. And the guy cutting my hair said, what do you eat? You eat beef? And he's like, well, yeah.
Right. They're like, go to the grocery store and get it like normal people.
Yeah. Because the beef that you get at the store, those cows, they died of natural causes.
So I even had a family member say that, I mean, like, here's what I think. When you're gonna have a thought and you're gonna put stuff on social media, you should probably have like your facts straight before you go opening your mouth, right? I had a family member, and I read this on her Facebook thing, and I was like, she's like, yeah, the population of deer is so thin right now. And I'm like, oh my Lord. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just giving my facts. There is like 850,000 to 1 million deer in Kentucky alone. Okay? You see them all over the highways. Kentucky kills 130,000 on average a year. So you see the math there?
Yeah.
And how many does the buck population? They're not going anywhere. We don't have a herd problem.
Right.
And so then the best one, oh, by the way, Owen County is your Kentucky state leader in killing deer.
Are you sure?
3,700
This year? I thought
Last year.
I really thought Grant County was the most. I thought Grant County was the most harvest, but it's not.
No.
Owen County is.
No.
Okay.
So, and the best, yeah. The picture, there was a picture they put on Facebook of this dead doe, and with her newborn fawn beside her, like a brand new one. And they're like, see what you deer hunters did? What do you see is wrong with that?
Their deer don't have spots right now.
It's a fawn, like it's a baby. Like right by its dead mother.
That doe was probably hit by a car.
That's what I said, because here's
back
the
in the summertime.
People that you don't think that the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife has got to figure out that you don't hunt when there's little babies running around.
Yeah, you know.
Like you can't even kill a deer like it doesn't work like that.
No.
Get your facts straight. Moving on. Sorry, Wizard. Last one. Papa John's franchisee gets jail time for illegally taking employees' wages. So this guy, he's paying these people any of their overtime hours, he's paying them like regular straight time. He's not paying any overtime whatsoever. Okay? So he's going to jail because they got it figured out. He's creating fake names, fake people, just to save the time and a half, right?
Right.
Overtime, you have to pay time and a half. Well, he gets up to like $230,000 that he's got to pay back. So when I seen that $230,000 you got to pay back, my first question was, if your employees are not smart enough to figure out that this guy is not paying you correctly, then you probably deserve to have your money stolen.
Tricky a couple times, but eventually you think you figure it out.
Yeah,
before he gains $230,000 from a group of people.
How much is a Papa John's employee making on an hour? It's not a ton of money. I just gotta say it, right?
Yeah.
No way. So with that being said, wouldn't you think that every dollar counts?
Yep.
I'm gonna know what's going on.
Hey, that's awesome, CJ. Yeah. You're so awesome, man. I want to be like you, really.
All right, Wizard. Oh, no. This is a game again where we feel like Reed was open up there. Where did you get this intro music from?
My friends, Kevin, Stewart, and Bob. All meetings.
Can't handle the truth.
All right, little truth or untruth. You must respond in that manner.
We won last week, just to put that out there.
This is not last week.
No.
This is a new week.
Yeah, this is...
Each year, Americans spend more on cat food than baby food. Truth or untruth?
Gotta be.
Truth. Final answer.
Truth.
Yes. We're gonna dominate you, Wizard.
The martial art of Taekwondo originates from Thailand. Truth or untruth?
Untruth. Final answer.
Untruth.
Yes. Dominating here. Woo. 2 for 2.
The Gremlins movie was released in 1986.
That's tough.
It's tough because it's like it's either like 85, 86, or 87. It's right there. It's
or
all
untruth.
right there.
I love Gremlins. I love Gremlins.
I'm gonna go untruth.
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 Yeah! What year?
1984.
Yes!
Trick question.
The estimated amount of M&Ms sold each day in the U.S. is 200 million. Truth or untruth?
More. I think it's more or less.
Untruth.
Truth.
It's a lot of M&M's.
The number 4 is located between 18 and 13 on a standard dartboard. Truth or untruth? Truth or untrue?
Truth.
Truth. This one's for all the marbles.
Oh, well, we've already won.
It's over.
That's not how it was.
It's over. He makes up his own rules as he goes.
Jeremiah was a bullfrog. He was a good friend of mine. Truth or untrue?
That is true. Every time.
Thank you for participating in truth or untrue. Winners 2 times in a row.
Soak in the victory.
So we're out next week.
I can just feel the victory vibe just seeping in my skin.
I was going to Gronk spike this cup, but then I was like,
Worked like you've been here before.
Brought to you by Oops, the new game from Hasbro, teaching us that we all make mistakes. Some are just super dumb. Well, would you rather?
Would you rather?
Y'all ready for that?
I'm ready. I was born ready.
Would you rather have a dog head with a human body or a human head with a dog body?
I'm going.
Do you think he sits at home?
He has to think. I guarantee he's like driving in his car, you know, and he's like, I wonder what I could have on there next week for Would You Rather. I'm going to go with a human body, dog head. This is why. The only thing I think that I could gain from having any parts of a dog would be the nose, to be able to smell. And I would utilize that. I would be a drug-sniffing dog. Human dog. Drug-sniffing. And I would get paid lots of money to bust scumbags. I'd sniff drugs right out. And you know it would scare drug dealers to death if a half-human...
I can't.
They let you out of the backseat of a cruiser?
Yeah. they would have my own cage and everything. Canine unit. My dog name would be Shark.
The guy needs help and he just pushes the button, opens the door.
Yeah, he pushes the button.
You run
out.
out.
I come.
Yeah. Alright, would you rather? Never play your favorite game again or always play but always lose?
Never play ever again.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Basketball would be my game. I would say never play again. If I'm always going to lose?
Yeah, always lose. I mean, you get to play it all the time, but you always lose.
I don't know about that.
Alright, would you rather have a robot maid or a talking dog?
I'm gonna go talking dog.
I would go talking dog. This is why. Because if I have a human body and a dog head, how cool would it be to have a talking dog to go along
That
with
might,
me?
people might get confused
It's like
by
an
that
accessory.
relationship.
They'd be like,
What's going on?
what is this? Lots of possibilities there.
Would you rather have a unicorn horn or a squirrel tail?
A unicorn horn. Done. That's a mic drop. Unicorn horn.
I don't know. I think it's squirrel tail. I can hide that.
Sweet balance and stuff?
Well,
Sure.
if you had a unicorn horn, you would be the life of the party at like a bonfire. You'd be like, yeah, you would.
People be hanging clothes and
No, marshmallows. Like, hey, put some marshmallows.
You got roast marshmallows like by your face?
And I just put it right in there.
you can hide a squirrel tail.
Yeah, I think I'm going with the squirrel tail. Alright, last one. Would you rather have a blaster or a lightsaber?
Blaster.
Shark?
He doesn't know either. We don't watch that Star Wars stuff like you.
No.
You guys.
Blaster sounds way cooler.
It's lightsaber.
I don't even know what a lightsaber
All
is
the
either.
way.
Does it electrocute you or cut?
It'll
Yeah,
cut
how's that
straight
work?
for you.
What?
Cut straight for you.
Like a laser beam?
Yes.
Guess what?
Like it.
Guess what?
Put that on my nose.
Guess what?
Find out what a blaster is.
Oh, come on, I know you can hear me.
Alright. The meat tonight we're getting into, it's profile night. Here we go. We said once a month we try to do a profile. Last time with John the Baptist. Today, we're going to do Joseph.
Joseph.
And I'm telling you, I've been reading up on him this week.
From the Old Testament.
The Old Testament. Joseph, yes, thank you. Joseph from the Old Testament. Talk about him. I've been reading up on it this week, and it's been like, find some crazy stuff. Dig into this. Once again, like we've said, a story that you've heard your whole life that you dig into, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yep, interesting stuff. 13 chapters.
I didn't know that.
13 chapters devoted to Joseph in the Bible.
Yeah, 13 chapters. I didn't know that until this week. I'm like, holy smokes. It was kind of important. Then you see that, help me out, Wizard, put some of our finest people. What's the guy, the Republican candidate? Ben Carson, thanks, Wizard, is, he states that he believes that Joseph is the one that built the pyramids.
Really?
I don't know what, I haven't read why he thinks that, or I've seen that today. That's pretty cool.
Joseph means, I got it right here. Look it up, make sure I don't mess it up. May God add or increase, which I think that's pretty cool,
There you go.
considering, some of his life stories.
So, before we get into it, let's go ahead and bring our pastor for the night up for Pastor Josh. Wait a minute.
What?
That's not.
What?
Pastor Earl Green there.
Pastor Earl! How's it going, man? Doing all right? You look good, man.
I'm doing great. Yeah, I've been in Haiti feeding kids. I've been in Detroit taking care of the homeless.
You've been sitting at home watching the Bengals.
Oh, terrible game.
Looks like you've been out getting like spray tan and face wax. So it looks like.
I have been just a little bit. Talking about Dolly Parton tonight.
Yeah.
Covered in many colors, right? That's what we're at.
Pastor Earl, thanks for coming up with us tonight.
Hey,
It's been a long time since we've seen you.
been a month and a half.
We had to give you a poke. We had to take a jab at you. So tonight we're talking about Joseph, like we just said. And like Shark said, there's 13 chapters. So there's no way that we're not even going to read into all this stuff. But I want to hit some of the points and get through it as fast, because you could do an entire Bible study weeks on end talking about this dude's life. So, like you said, it is found in Genesis chapter 37. 37 through 50 is what the, basically, if you're going to read about Joseph.
Let me pull up my Bible. Hold on. Okay, got it.
So, you can Periscope people in the audience. You can follow along in your Bibles, or you can look it up. But I'm just going to kind of bulletize this stuff and just kind of, I don't want to read every scripture.
Right.
Let's be here till midnight. But, so Joseph, and you guys interrupt me, or whatever, if you say I missed or can add to it.
Yeah.
But Joseph was the 11th son of Jacob. So he was 11th son, but he was like the 10th. He had one brother that was younger than him.
Yes.
Okay? He was 17 years old when this all starts taking place in Genesis 37. He was 17 years old. He was a shepherd. He was, he was his father's favorite child. He makes that very evident in the scripture. But I think in 37, you kind of see, I want to read a little bit so we lead up to knowing what's going on, is Joseph was 17 years old. He worked out in the fields with his brothers as a shepherd. And he brought their father a bad report about them. So there's one you need to know.
He was a shepherd for 9 years, by the way.
Before he was 17?
Yes, before he was 17. 9 of those years he was a shepherd.
So he's out with his brothers. They're out shepherding. He comes back, tells his dad a bad report. It doesn't say what, but who knows what it was. He says, in verse 3, it says, Now Israel loved Joseph. Israel was his dad. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons. And they called Jacob, and Israel was the Same dude, so sorry, I didn't. But because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made richly ornamented a robe for him. So when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. So you've heard the coat of many colors, right? Everyone's heard that. You got this kid who's 17 years old. He's one of the youngest kids. His father loves him. He's a favor to him. That irritates his brothers. Then he's come back and is always telling on them or whatever, right? So there's strike two. And it moves on, and Joseph had a dream. And when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." His brothers said to him, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. So here's strike three for this guy. He's his father's favorite, which they can't stand. He's tattletale on them, right? We know that snitches get stitches.
Right. And they end up in ditches.
Or, in this case, snitches get sold into slavery.
Yeah.
I guess you could say that. So, he tells them this dream. On top of those two things, he's telling them this dream. And he says to them, basically, "Here's my dream I had. I was standing up there, and you guys bowing down to me." How do you like that? Snap! What in the world?
Not just the brothers, he comes through with a second dream.
The second dream, yeah. And moving on, like Pastor Earl said, Pastor Earl, you might not know how this works, but you
don't follow the order of the outline?
Yeah. Just letting you know, because you're the new guy here. He said, so I had another dream, and this time the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me. When he told his father, as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to you, the ground before you?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. So as did his dad, kind of lets it slide. But think of this, like what's going through this dude's mind? He's 17 years old, and he's walking up to his brothers, and he's telling them, "You're going to bow down to me." Not only does he tell them, now he's telling his, like you said, his mother and his father that,
"Yeah, boy,
yeah, you're going to bow down." They're like, I'm thinking this kid's lost his mind. But what I can't wrap my head around is how angry the brothers get with this kid. Because you got to think, if he's 17 years old, and he's got 9 other brothers who are older than him, how old are they? And if you look in there, his oldest brother was named Reuben. So was Reuben like a 35, 36-year-old man, like getting angry with this 17-year-old kid? Or how does that work? You know?
I would say.
Like Reuben.
9 older brothers.
You're a grown man.
Yeah.
But think about, was it stupidity or was it courage or what do you call that? When you are a 17-year-old kid that walks up to your 36, 37-year-old brother and says, "Hey, you're going to bow down." Basically, you're going to bow down to him.
I think it was a little bit of both. I think it was a little stupidity, but I think it was a little boldness at the same time. Maybe that's why, God's favor shined on him.
Right.
Because
Maybe a little innocence.
Just using him because of that.
A little what?
Innocence?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I mean by stupidity is
There was arrogance.
innocence.
Could have been arrogance too.
I'd have kept it
Could
myself.
have been, but then, there's a lot of favor on him. You would think he wouldn't be packing that around.
Maybe look at this coat.
I'm the favorite, I got a coat, and you're going to bow down. I think I'd have kept all that to myself.
Hey, Rube. Hey, Big Reuben, check my coat out.
This coat,
While you're bowing down.
What did this coat symbolize? I need to know. Was it like
I don't know. I didn't find.
Well, colors meant something.
I don't know what they meant. It didn't say it in the scripture.
Back
It says
then
it's
were
a ton of
clothes that were colored? Were they more expensive?
What they said was this was like a jacket. A jacket was like a special thing. They didn't really have it was like basically robes. So any kind of coat or jacket was like a special deal.
Yeah.
The fact that I would think colors, to make colors back then wasn't an easy task.
It wasn't easy to do.
You had to have been, you're talking about many colors. It's not.
So he was kind of wearing it, like kind of flaunting it around.
I don't know that he was.
It was his Letterman's jacket, that's what it was.
He could have went either way.
He got his varsity letter.
He could have been like, my dad gave me this, and I don't really know why you guys give me a hard time. Or he could have went, yeah, that's right, popping his collar.
Yeah. And the sun and the moon bowed down to me. And 11 stars.
So he goes on, so that they decide they've had enough of this kid, right? His brothers do. And they're going to get rid of him. So they're going to kill him. Just throw him in some well or something. Kill him and throw him. That's what they're going to do, but they decide against it. So they throw him in a well, and then he ends up getting, instead of just leaving him there, they decide to sell him into slavery with these caravans and stuff that's going on.
Why not? Make a little money.
So they make 20 pieces of silver. They take his coat and they dip it in animal blood and take it back to their dad and tell him and show it to him, and he's like, oh, he's dead.
They took the coat back, didn't they?
Yeah, he took the coat back. And dipped it all in like blood and stuff, and he's like, a beast has killed my son, I know it. And he's like all crying and whatnot.
What's wrong with you people?
So my first question to you all is, in your opinion, could Joseph have prevented the jealousy of his brothers? Do you think he could have kept from getting his hind end thrown in a well?
No. Absolutely not.
Tell me why.
I think it was all in God's
Well, I'm not saying it. Take it outside of God's.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Like, could he just kept
I
his
mean,
mouth shut?
yeah, he could have just kept his mouth shut, but I don't think that could have happened.
Right. Because of God's plan.
Right.
But it's good to think, like, at what point does he, like, not realize that's probably not going to end well? Or did he not know? Like Wizard said, was it innocence? Or did he feel untouchable?
It's kind of like that Casting the Crown song in that part where it says the world's not falling apart. It's not falling apart, it's just falling into place.
Well, he was the great grandson of Abraham.
So were them other dudes.
I know.
They didn't have favor, though.
He had favor.
I think Reuben was mad because he's like a grown man.
I'm sorry, but every time I hear the word Reuben, I think of the Reuben sandwich. I love the Reuben sandwich.
What came first, the name Reuben or the Reuben sandwich? That's what you need to know. So, Reuben's angry, I think, because he's a grown man, and here's 17-year-old pipsqueak brother, and they're like doing the same job, working the same deal. But Reuben was the person that saved them from killing him. If you read that in the scripture, they actually sold him into slavery without Reuben knowing that they were going to sell him into slavery, because Reuben had decided he was going to go and rescue him and take him back to his father and be the hero.
Well, put yourself in Reuben's shoes. And Fact comes and tells you, you're doing all the work to keep everything going. He comes and tells you you're going to be bound down to it.
Yeah, Fat's my Periscope people. Fat's is my little brother.
Man.
How does that make you feel?
Oh, I would throw him in a well, probably take his coat and dip it in animal blood. So, I get it though.
You lose. Good day, sir.
So he gets sold into slavery, goes on, and he comes into the house of Potiphar. Right?
Yes.
Potiphar buys him from someone who, whatever. Potiphar is listed here as a high-ranking Egyptian. And this is where his favor really starts to shine, I think. And if in chapter 38 kind of skips over Joseph, so you kind of go 37 and skip over to 39. Chapter 38 is about one of his older brothers. You can read it if you want. It's full of things in words that I won't read.
Yeah.
It's like
I just read that part just now.
yeah. It's like the
My eyes kind of levitate to it. Just bam, there it is.
there it is. Just
We'll skip over that part.
what's the word?
It's not PG.
No, it's not PG.
If you would like to read it, Genesis chapter 38.
And there's some not PG parts in there, so
Take a look at it.
it's good reading. So, do you have the part where he's in Potiphar's house? He becomes supervisor
Yes.
of Potiphar.
Yes.
You want to bullet point that?
Oh, let's see here. We'll start in verse 6 here. It says, now, Joseph was handsome in form and appearance, so obviously, I guess he was a good-looking dude.
Probably another reason his brothers hated him.
Right, probably another reason. And then after a while, I guess his master's wife laid eyes on him, it says.
He was fit.
Yeah, he was fit.
Oh!
And I guess was kind of like checking him out. Like, you look good. And then tried to get him to have relations with her.
But at this point, he went from being like a regular old slave servant to being like in charge of the...
Yes.
Like he was still worked for this guy, but he was like a...
Right. The master had like entrusted him basically with the house. Like put him in charge of everything.
He was like his most important...
Yes. And then the wife tried to get him to have relations with her, and he said no. And this kept happening over time. It happened multiple times. And he kept saying no, kept saying no, kept saying no. And finally, she called him in the nude.
You lose.
No clothes on. Just bam. There it is. Right? So she comes up and asks him again. And he says no. Well, he's naked, so he takes off running. And she has his clothes. So when this happens, I guess she gets upset, she gets offended. So she starts yelling for all of the other people around to come and to help her because she's basically saying that he forced himself upon her. And there she is with his cloak, when really that's not what happened because he took off running. He actually did the right thing. I would have probably put some clothes on.
He's streaking.
He's streaking right now. It says, as soon as he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried out, he left his garment beside me and fled and got out of the house. Then she laid up his garment by her until his master came home. And she told him the same story, saying, the Hebrew servant whom you have brought among us came into me to laugh at me. But as soon as I lifted up my voice and cried, he left his garment beside me and fled out of the house. As soon as his master heard the words that his wife spoke to him, this is the way your servant treated me, his anger was kindled. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. And he was there in prison, but the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. So he's in there and basically gave him favor with the person who was in charge of the prison where he was at. I think this is kind of setting the scene, kind of like the perfect storm of, where God's going to allow him to take over as the governor.
Well, you look at Joseph was falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, and you have any reason, like Potiphar believed his wife, like he's going to believe his wife.
Well, yeah.
Like Joseph had to know how that was going to end badly. You know what I'm saying? Like, so this guy has, so there's 2 times in his life where he was a golden child when he was 17 years old. His dad's favorite, new clothes. He gets thrown in the well. Now he's worked his way up to, he's in charge of this household. And you got this crazy lady trying to get him to have relations. He's trying to, just, and she can't leave him alone. So the question...
Good looking dude. A lot like myself.
Fit.
He was fit.
They said he was handsome. Said he was handsome.
Yeah, a lot like myself. I don't understand where the confusion's coming from.
Said, but here's, like you said, so she falsely accused him. Once again, he's done nothing. puts him into prison. But yet again, God uses it for his own good. But if you're Joseph in this situation, what's your mindset, Pastor Earl?
Well, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, it says, I found some cool facts. This whole process, he spent almost 20 years through the time frame of being sold into slavery and the time that he goes and spends in prison. And I look at this and I'm thinking, at what point does he start doubting this dream? You know, me and Frank was talking tonight about just the word faith and belief. And
Roughly 15 years.
15 years.
Yeah, because when he goes to be in charge of, when he works for Pharaoh, he's 30 years old.
Yeah.
A lot of times we start something or we believe God gave us something, and if it doesn't happen in 2 months, we quit.
Yeah.
We see a vision that this would be good, or, we quit, and I just think, how long and what would God do if we would just stay faithful to believe and I'm not saying he didn't have, I'm sure he had doubts and, things played out and ended up being exactly what God said, but, just a ringing true to when God gives you a vision or something.
I think that can speak to the whole mindset of somebody's Christian walk too.
Yeah.
I mean, starting from day one, talking about resiliency. I just think that reminds me of a basketball. I'll give you a little metaphor here. But a flat basketball, if you take it and you hit it on the ground, it's not going to bounce back up because it's not resilient. But if you fill it full of air and you drop it, it's going to bounce back up. And I think with Christians that, in general, that we run out of air because we're not feeding ourselves with God's Word. We're not in prayer. We're not, steadily in pursuit of Him on a daily basis.
So Joseph is in jail, and in jail, he interprets the dreams of 2 of his fellow prisoners. Both interpretations prove to be true, and one of the men is later released from jail and restored to his position as the king's cupbearer. You got these 2 dudes who were like, one was a cupbearer, the other was like a baker for the king, and they did something, and he puts them in prison. So while they're in there, Joseph interprets the dreams of the 2 of them. So he goes from like having dreams, now he's interpreting the dreams, and the dreams become true. What he interprets, his interpretation is true, and the cupbearer got out. I looked at this, if you look in the scripture, it talks about the guy was like basically happy to be restored, I guess out of prison to be the cupbearer, but do you realize that the cupbearer's job was
Extremely important and very much from a trustworthy person, right?
It was a dangerous job.
It's the worst job ever.
Might be.
Like he was serving to the king, right? Or
but he was there to test the cup.
Yes.
So that if it was poison, he would die instead of the king. But let me say this: your cupbearer and your baker, kind of the people I don't want to put in prison.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to, I don't know. I just think that the cupbearer, so this guy basically was like, I don't know, it's a side note, but think about it, he's like wanting to be released to go be the cupbearer. Like knowing that every drink that he takes, it could be his last.
Yeah.
I guess it's better in prison, I don't know.
I'll say that just means how bad was prison.
Right. Good to show you. That was kind of what my point was, is that this guy wants out. And then the next dream, it talks about 2 years later, and they're still in prison. Or Joseph is still in prison. So I don't know how long it was before this dream, but from the time that he interpreted that dream to the next dream that he gets to is 2 years. It's a long time. Being in prison for something he never did.
Resiliency.
Well, the cupbearer didn't do any favors.
Yeah, and Scripture mentions that the cupbearer gets out and he just kind of forgets about him.
That's nice.
Until cupbearer forgets about him until the king himself has some troubling dreams. And the cupbearer remembers that Joseph gives for interpretation. So then the king calls Joseph and he goes and he tells him what his dream was. When 2 full years had passed, Pharaoh had a dream, He was standing by the Nile when out of the river there came up 7 cows, sleek and fat, and they grazed among the reeds. After them, 7 other cows, ugly and gaunt, came up out of the Nile and stood beside those on the riverbank. And the cows that were ugly and gaunt ate up the 7 sleek, fat cows. Then Pharaoh woke up. That's a pretty nasty dream, if you ask me. About, you got 7 skinny cows eating 7 fat cows. And basically, so Joseph interprets the dream, and he advises the king, that there's going to be 7 years of bountiful harvest, and there's going to be followed by 7 years of severe famine. So, you need to be starting preparing now for those 7 years, so it ain't that bad. So, because of his wisdom, Joseph is made a ruler in Egypt, second only to the king. Because of this interpretation, because he was right. Now you tell me, this guy has gone from being on top, to down in the pit, to sold in slavery, to being a slave, to being in charge of a house, from being in charge of a house, falsely accused, going into prison for years. Now he's second only to the king. Like,
it's a good spot to be in.
I mean, that's a pretty good
great spot to be.
I'd find that cupbearer and I'd fire him.
Well, the cupbearer actually is the one that helped him out.
Yeah, 2 years later.
2 years later, but he
Where
was
was
the
that?
one that helped him out.
Where would you have 2 years ago? I don't know. Fire the baker then. Somebody's getting fired.
All this talk about the baker is making me hungry.
Bread sandwich.
Yeah.
So now he's second in command. And like I said, we're skipping through these things. When the famine strikes, even Canaan, which is where he grew up at, is affected. And Jacob, his father, sends 10 of his sons to Egypt to buy grain. Why does he only send 10 of his sons? That's all he's got left.
That's all he's got left.
He had 11, right? So all of them were there. I think that's important, isn't it?
Are they trying to get a surplus because all 10 of them were coming?
Yeah, I guess.
As much as they could get.
I just think it was important for all 10 of them to be there.
I think they were trying to bank off surplus. The more go, the more get the food stamps.
Maybe. I don't think they had food stamps back then.
A free cheese line.
Definitely free cheese.
Because the harvest was in the barns for 7 years.
So, while they're there, they meet their long-lost brother, whom they do not recognize. Can you imagine? So,
how long has it been? What, 15 years? Is that right?
What did we say? It was 30.
He was 30
when he took
sold
over.
into slavery when he was 17.
And 37 is when he took the...
No, he was 30 years old when he became second in command. So, it's been at least 13 years. We don't know how long after.
It's been at least 15 years.
He was 17 years old.
Right.
We knew he was 17 when he got sold into slavery. And we knew he was 30 years old. Chapter 41, verse 46 says, Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt.
Right.
And Joseph went out from Pharaoh's presence and traveled throughout Egypt. During the 7 years of abundance, the land produced plentiful. Joseph collected all the food. So,
another thing.
So there's 7 years and there's...
Yeah, so 13 years he was a slave and prisoner in Egypt. So he was 30 years old, you're right.
But you got to think, they're probably not looking for their brother who they sold into slavery umpteen years ago.
No, they're not.
So they're not, why would they recognize him?
So all we know is when the famine strikes, we don't know how far into it. But we know that he went to work for Pharaoh when he was 30. We know that he was there through the first 7 years of abundance. Okay? So he's at least 37 years old. So it's been at least 20 years since he's seen his brothers.
Right.
And then we know that the famine strikes, and that's when they come to town. Are they going to come to town the first day of the famine strikes? No. Probably. So it's at least 20 years, probably more. More likely 22, 23 years. So, yeah, that's a long time.
Yes.
Now, I think it was easier for him to notice who they were because there was 10 of them. Yeah, I think that's right. So, let me read this in chapter 42. When Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you just keep looking at each other?" He continued. "I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us, so that we may live and not die." Then 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt, but Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother. So there was another son.
In my study Bible, it does say about 20 years.
It does.
Yeah. So, like you said, it was probably 22 years, somewhere in there.
Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with the others, because he was afraid that harm might come to him. So Israel's sons, and I have to look that up, Benjamin's got to be the youngest.
Yeah, he was the youngest.
Like the newest one or something. Joseph's brother with the others, because he was afraid that harm might come to him. Now Joseph was the governor of the land, the one who sold grain to all its people. So when Joseph's brothers arrived, they bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. Yes, thank you.
There it is.
There's the dream. There's one coming to fruition. So I think he's the governor of all the land. Like, he's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
You got a famine and he's in charge of the grain.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good deal. So they bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. As soon as Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. "Where do you come from?" he asked. "From the land of Canaan," they replied, "to buy food." Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they did not recognize him. Then he remembered his dreams about them and said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see where our land is unprotected." "No, my lord," they answered. "Your servants have come to buy food. We are all the sons of one man. Your servants are honest men, not spies." "No," he said to them, "you have come to see where our land is unprotected." But they replied, "Your servants were 12 brothers, the sons of one man, who lives in the land of Canaan. The youngest is now with our father, and one is no more." I think that's pretty crazy that they bring that up.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we had 12 brothers.
Well, after 20 years, they probably have got to a point where even the lie become the truth in their family.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost like they've tricked themselves into thinking that.
Well, I think they knew the truth, but I think when you tell a lie for so long, it just becomes the gospel to you.
I mean, even not lies. I know there's stories that.
And the fact that he went into slavery, they probably figured, well, he probably got killed. He did. Either way, he's gone.
Yeah. There's stories like, you ever tell someone a story and then years later you're like thinking about that story and you're like, was that true? And you're like, I don't know.
Of course it was.
I don't know if that was true or not. If that was like a joke that we made up and now it's true. I don't know. Let's see where I left off. Joseph said to them, "It's just as I told you, you are spies, and this is how you will be tested. As surely as Pharaoh lives, you will not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of your number to get your brother. The rest of you will be kept in prison, so that your words may be tested to see if you are telling the truth. If you are not, then as surely as Pharaoh lives, you are spies." And he put them all in custody for 3 days. I like that part. On the third day, Joseph said to them, "Do this, and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers stay here in prison, while the rest of you go and take grain back for your starving households. But you must bring your youngest brother to me, so that your words may be verified and you may not die." This they proceeded to do. They said to one another, "Surely we are being punished because of our brother. We saw how distressed he was when he pleaded with us for life, but we would not listen. That's why this distress has come upon us." So they're talking about, they're saying, surely we can punish for our brother. That was over 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 years. It was 20 years ago. And they're like, so how long have they been living with this?
And they're telling Joseph, this is happening to us because of what happened to our brother. They don't realize that they're talking to him, face to face. That's crazy.
Brother. Brother. Punished because of our brother. We saw how distressed he was when he pleaded with us for his life. We would not listen. That's why his distress has come upon us. Reuben replied, "Didn't I tell you not to sin against the boy? But you wouldn't listen. Now we must give an accounting for his blood." They did not realize that Joseph could understand them, since he was using an interpreter.
He's a genius.
They did not realize that Joseph could understand them, since he was using an interpreter. So they're talking
different language.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his native tongue, and he's like, I'm going to act like I don't even know what they're speaking right now.
Yeah.
Now that is genius. So he's got an interpreter there that he's not even using because he knows exactly what they're saying. I like that. This guy is kind of like a real deal. But Reuben, if he was an old man, if he was 36, 37 years old, this dude's pushing almost 60 now. And his dad's sending him out to get grain. I guess age in the Old Testament is a lot different than it is today.
Told you it's about surplus. Bring as much home as possible.
That's for you.
I mean, they were really in a situation now. They were starving. Or they wouldn't have went into Egypt anyway.
I guess.
I got beef with Reuben.
You do?
Yeah, he's like the oldest brother. Beef with Reuben. He's like the oldest brother out of the 12.
You have beef with Reuben.
Yeah. You like that? Thank you. Yes. Okay. But I do. Reuben's the oldest brother. He lets his other brothers, and he's like, "No, don't do it. Oh no, don't do it." Like that's stop them. You're the oldest brother. And he's like, "Oh, we're getting tortured for all the stuff that we did." And so, like, Reuben, dude, you're just as bad as anybody else. Shut up and go get grain. Yeah.
I agree.
Like, it's been 20 years, Reuben. Let it go.
All right, let's wrap this thing up with Joseph. He is,
what a jerk.
So he's telling them, Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, to put each man's silver back in his sack, and to give them provisions for their journey. After this was done for them, they loaded their grain on their donkeys and left. At the place where they stopped for the night, one of them opened the sack to get the feed for his donkey, and he saw the silver in the mouth of his sack. "My silver has been returned," he said to his brothers. "Here it is." Their hearts sank, and they turned to each other, trembling, and said, "What is it that God has done to us?" When they came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened. He said, "The man who is Lord over the land spoke harshly to us and treated us as though we were spies. But we said to him, 'We are 12 brothers and sons. One is more, and the youngest is now with our father in Canaan.'" So these guys, she'll have a brother in jail. He gives them the grain, puts it in the sacks, and then gives their money back to them too. But he does it in a way that they're kind of like, I would say they're probably scared. Think about it. You went up there and you got put in prison. Now you get this grain. The guy has kind of been, harsh to you. Now you open his bags and you got all your money in there. And they're like, somebody's setting us up to,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Somebody's setting us up and somebody's going to kill us. The second trip, his whole family goes back, right, to Egypt. That's when they bow down to him. And then he's like, boom. He reveals a dream. He basically, this has been fulfilled. He forgives them for what they done. And I think it's
You want me to read it?
yeah,
It's in verse 4 says, "So Joseph said to his brothers, 'Come near to me, please,' after they went back. And they came near, and he said, 'I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest, and God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and ruler over the land of Egypt. Hurry and go up to my father, and say to him, Thus says your son Joseph, God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me. Do not tarry. So basically just reveals himself.
Lord, it's a
Says, hey, everything I've been telling you jokers when I was 17 years old before you sold me into slavery. Bam.
Right. Then his entire family moves to Egypt with Joseph. They stay in Egypt for 400 years.
Yeah.
Until the time of Moses. And something I read was that when Moses, and this is just a sidebar, when Moses leads the Hebrews out of Egypt, he takes the remains of Joseph with him. As Joseph requests in like chapter 50.
Yeah.
Like he takes their remains. It's awesome.
Yeah, but I found on there an interesting fact that they were buried like 400 years later.
After he took them?
Yes.
Oh.
After he died.
Mm.
That's pretty
Well,
great.
it says they were in Egypt for 400 years until the time of Moses. Yeah, so it's been 400 years from the time he died till Moses come on the scene and let him out of Egypt.
Must be a pretty important dude.
Yeah.
You're remembered 400 years later.
Well, here's what I think is cool about like the whole story of Joseph. You know, I mean, when you look at, you know, God gave him a vision of something that was going to happen, and he took the heightening of that vision of people bowing down, which would brought glory to him. And God didn't show him that vision to bring glory to him, but he come to an understanding that, you know, what had happened, God allowed to happen. And I look at, you know, if you look at us in terms of speaking to the church, you know, God gives people visions all the time, and a lot of times those visions, people end up taking them as that's going to bring glory to them, a ministry to them, a heightened awareness of them. And God never does that. He always gives, you know, dreams, or he gives visions that's going to bring him glory. And what's cool about it is once Joseph understood that, you know, 30 years old and the 7 years of the good harvest, and then he would have been 37 when, you know, when he come to the age when he was getting ready to go into the famine, and then from the age of 30 until he was 110 when he died, he spent 80 years and never left his position of being second in command of Egypt. And I'm thinking, once you get an understanding that God's going to get the glory, he's going to keep you in that position. I think it's cool. You know what I mean? I think
So in a nutshell, one point, if you had to go around the table, one point that a Christian today can take from the story of Joseph. One piece of advice, one...
Well, I think one nugget is that, you know, no matter what the situation looks like, always understand that God is up to something. No matter what. I mean, if God's gave you a vision, if God's gave you a desire for something, it doesn't matter if you find yourself in, you know, in a hole or sold into slavery like Joseph was. Maybe you were sold into a workplace and you find yourself and you're there working and you don't understand because it's so out of the loop, even out of the arena of what you thought God gave you. Maybe God's using that for, you know, the ending still turns out to give God glory for the original thing. That's the thing. The original thing that God gave you, if you'll stick with God, he'll bring that to light.
Sure. Start.
Resiliency through fire. Don't stop before you get your reward. Amen.
And I think mine would be stay pressed in, stay in pursuit. As long as you got your eyes focused on the prize, whatever, you know, God brings you to it, he'll bring you through it. Right?
Amen.
Pastor Earl, thanks for coming up tonight. Don't be a stranger anymore. We like having you around.
See you,
Pastor Earl, everybody.
I haven't seen you in a long time, man. Hardly recognize you. Kind of like Joseph's brothers.
He said, I'll see you all in a month and a half. So, all right, there it is tonight. Joseph. The profiles always take a little bit longer.
They do, but they're fun because you can really dig into them. There's so many. There's so much to learn from Joseph and his
We
story.
just put like the extra cliff notes of the story of Joseph. And we can talk for hours and hours on end. Get in your word, people. Read it. I mean, it's good stuff. It's not only good, it's interesting. It helps you. It's get you prepared for what's happening.
I'm gonna go home and read that chapter.
Read that chapter 38.
Chapter 38.
So next week, Thanksgiving theme.
Ooh.
WADR. Wizards cooking the turkey and see what happens.
Dressing up
as what?
Pocahontas.
No, I will not be here as Pocahontas. I promise you that. Periscope people in the audience, thank you for coming out tonight. Appreciate you guys. We love you. Same time, same place next week.